Parshas Balak this week, and we're going to go into a fascinating idea which we learn out from the words of Bilam. Bilam, when he was about to give the blessing, let's turn to Perek Chaf Dalid Pasuk Beis, which is the second to last pasuk on this page. That would be all the way down here, Pasuk Beis. So it says here that as he was coming to give the blessing, so it says he lifted his eyes. Vayisa Bilam es Einav. It says he lifted his eyes. Vayaris Yisrael, and he saw the Jews shoichein l'shvotav. They were dwelling, according to each one, in their shevet. They would. What does that mean? Shoichein l'shvotav. They were dwelling according to its tribe. So the question is, what does that mean? They dwelled according to their tribe. And then the pasuk continues and says, "V'atihi alav ruach elikim," and because of that, says that it was on top of him the Spirit of Hashem. And on that he started to say his famous words, which you see in the next pasuk. You actually turn the page, and the third line from the top, pasuk Hey, it says, Ma toivu ahalecha Yaakov mishkaneisecha Yisrael. That we all know this is the famous prayer that we start saying, Ma toivu ahalecha Yaakov. So let's go back and see, what did he see? He saw the Jews shoichin lishvotav. Let's go back to the first page. He saw them dwelling according to their tribes. So Rashi says, you see third line from the bottom on the second column, Rashi, third line from the bottom here, it says shoichin l'shvotav. He saw them dwelling by their tribes. Ra kol shevet v'shevet shoichin la'atzmai. He saw every tribe was dwelling by itself. And then he says ve'ena miravan, and they were not mixing together. That's the first thing he saw, that each tribe dwelled separately. Reuven was in one side, Shimon. But then he goes a step further. He takes it much deeper. Ra, he saw she'ein peschayin mechuvanim zeh keneged zeh. He saw that their tents, the openings of the tents, were not directly opposite each other. That means there was one tent over here, but the other tent was not clear that it was not directly the opposite. So therefore Bilam saw that their tents, when they opened up, right, they saw that their tents were not opening, one opening opposite the other. If one opening was over here, so the other opening would be over here. They wouldn't be opposite each other. Why? So Rashi explains, in order that one should not inadvertently look into his friend's tent. So he saw that their tents were not positioned one next to another. Rather, one's opening was over here, the other one was a little different. Or one was over here, so they made sure they shouldn't be directly opposite each other. So from these words, and that's what he said on the next page. He said, "Ma toivu ahalecha Yaakov mishkaneisecha Yisrael." That's on the next page, the third line from the top, pasuk Hey. From there he said, "Wow, ma tovu, how good are the tents of Yaakov. The tents are so good." He meant to say, look how beautiful they are, that they, and Rashi over there says the same exact thing on pasuk Hey, let's say around 10 lines from the bottom. On the first column, Rashi speaks that out again. Ma toivu ahalecha Yaakov. So look over here on 10 lines from the bottom. Hey, ma toivu. So he says, Rashi says again, Al shera pischem she'enim chavanim zu zeh. He saw that their openings were not opposite each other. So he said, Ma toivu, how beautiful are the tents of the Jews. So from this, the Mishnah in BaMidbar learns out that there are laws on how a person is allowed to build his house, and what he's supposed to do when he's walking by someone's open window. I mean, there's rules in the school of Hezek Riyah. Hezek Riyah means there's damage. So there's different type of damages. You could have damages. We have above a comma, shar. Your ox. Your ox could give a gore. That's shar. And then there's bar. Bar is that you could dig a pit, and someone could fall in the pit. That's also a damage. And then there's different other types that you could cause with your body. You yourself could cause. There's Adam. Adam is also in the Mishnah in Bava Kama. Adam is a person could go over to someone else and hurt someone else, even inadvertently, and that's a problem of damaging also. So Shar Bar Maveh is Adam. Adam is also one of the three forms of damages, and the fourth one is fire. But one of them is man, and the Mishnah, the Gemara there says man is obligated because he can't damage whether he's doing it inadvertently or he does it on purpose. You're not allowed to damage even when you're sleeping. You have to be careful. You have to make sure when you're lying on a bed and someone's let's say watch is on the edge of the bed, you have to be careful. Don't move it away from the bed, because if you kick it over while you're sleeping, so you're obligated because you can't damage anything even if you're sleeping. That's called damaging. Man is not allowed to damage. He's not allowed to any way cause damage. Now, one of those damages now that we're going to see, which is in almost the whole Gemara BaMidbar, is called Hezek Riyah. Hezek Riyah means you're not allowed to use your eyes for damaging. So what exactly does that mean? So let's see the Gemara in BaMidbar. Now the first Gemara we're going to see is on the left side, and it happens to be, let's see the Gemara here on the paper. The Gemara is in BaMidbar Daf Samach. I didn't write what daf it is, but it's on Daf Samach Amud Aleph. And the Mishnah here says an interesting din. Lo yiftach adam lechater hashutfin. A person should not open if he has a chater, which is shutfin. It's a joint courtyard, which means your house is here, my house is here, and we share a courtyard. So here's the din. The din is that a person has to make sure that when you have your courtyard, you have to make sure that let's say you want to now make a door. You want to make your door into the joint courtyard. We have a joint courtyard here, and you own the house over here, and I own the house over here. So when let's say I have a door right here, and you want to make a door going to the courtyard also. So you are not allowed to open the door directly. You're not allowed to make the door directly opposite my door. Or a window. Same thing with the window. If I have a window here, you cannot make a window in your house over here. You have to make it a little bit further down. And we learned this out from Bilam, because Bilam said how beautiful are the tents of the Jews, that their openings of the tents are not corresponding one next to the other. They're a little bit down, so therefore they should not inadvertently see, as a person would, let's say, as he would leave his door, as he would open his door, he would just see straight into his friend's house or his friend's window. Therefore, they said you shouldn't put your door next to his door.
You would actually, by seeing inside his house, he could be embarrassed with something. You could cause him shame or embarrassment, which is like hurting a person.
Excellent.
With your eyes, you look and you hurt him.
Excellent.
Because he just knows that you saw it.
Excellent. Right. That is exactly what we're going to get to. What is the problem if you will see into his house? So what? So here is the whole idea that Rabbi was saying, beautiful, that when you're going to look into someone's house, you are causing him damage. It's called Hezek Riyah, damage from the eyes. Now, the question is, what is the damage? So Rabbi was saying one pshat. One pshat is that he is embarrassed, because let's say he's going to be, let's say he has he wants to, take a suntan. So he goes outside in his backyard. So let's say that backyard, you should have a fence there. So if you take away your fence and you could just look at him, he will be embarrassed that you're just gazing on him, and he's, you want to take a suntan in private. He's looking at you, so he's going to be embarrassed. So therefore, that is the first reason, excellent, what is called Hezek Riyah. Hezek Riyah, you're damaging him because you're embarrassing him. That's the first shot. People want privacy. So if you're going to be able to peer into his house, you are causing him busha, and busha is one of the 5 things that you pay if someone hits someone. Someone hits someone in the street. He has to pay nezek. Nezek is the damage that he did. Tsar is the pain, caused him pain. That's besides for the actual thing that he broke his hand, but he also caused him pain. And then there is Ripo, you have to pay the doctor bills. And Shabbos, you have to pay for unemployment. Shabbos, that he's resting, so you have to pay for that. But the last one is Boishas. Boishas is that he was shamed, he was embarrassed. You probably gave him a smack in the middle of the whole shul. So besides for the fact that he got hurt, and maybe he twisted his arm or whatever, but now he was embarrassed. So you have to pay him for his embarrassment also. Nezek, Tsar, Ripoy, Sheves, and Boishas. Right? The damages, the pain, the doctor bills, unemployment, and the embarrassment. So here too, when a person will have his door opposite his friend's door, so you're not allowed to peer into your friend's house, and the reason is, like your Bez was saying, one shot is because you'll be embarrassing him, because he wants to do things in private, and now you're looking at him. Therefore, you have to make sure that the door should not be opposite the next door, because if it is, then you won't even try. But the minute you open your door, you just automatically, right, let's say we would have a door here and his door is right there, automatically I see straight into his door. So I don't even have to try. Inadvertently I would do it. Therefore, that's why the Chachamim said you can't even put your door there. Of course you're not allowed to go peer in through his keyhole to his house. But the Chachamim said even further than that, you shouldn't even put your door opposite that, because then maybe by mistake you might look into his house. And therefore you have to make sure that your window is not opposite his window. Said the Gemara. Let's continue where we're holding from the big words Gimel Mem, Gemara. It's the Gemara Daf Samach on the left side. So the Gemara says, Mina Anamili. Where do you know this din from, that you can't put your door opposite his door? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan Damakra, because the pasuk says, Vayisa Bilam Eseinav, says that Bilam picked up his eyes, Vayaris Yisrael Shoichein Lishmatav, and he saw the Jews, they were all dwelling by their shevet, by each one according to their tribe. And what does it mean? Mara, what did he see? What does that mean, that he saw them dwelling by their tribes? So Rashi says, and the Gemara is quoting a Gemara, Ra, he saw She'ein Pischei Ahaleim, he saw the openings of their tents are not Mechuvanim Zelos, that they're not directly opposite each other. So Lozeh Omar, and therefore he said out, Re'uyin Alalu Shetishra Aleim Shechina. These people, the Jews, they are Ra'oi, they are fit that the Shekhinah should dwell on them, because they have this great attribute of tznius, of being very modest and not invading on someone else's privacy. And since it's because of that big milah, it's fitting that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, should dwell on them. And on that he said those famous words, Ma toivu ahalecha Yaakov, how good it is. And it's an interesting thing. What does that mean, how good it is? Some say that the good was that he saw the Shekhinah there. He saw the Shekhinah, he saw the divine presence resting there. And those were the words, Ma toivu ahalecha Yaakov, how good it is. What's good? What's good? So we know by Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe was born, and it says that it was good. It says the house was filled, it was good. What does it mean it was good, right? In Parashat Shemais, you don't have to turn there, but I'll tell you outside, the words that it says, as Moshe is born, amazing words. You're not going to believe me, but the words are, in Parashat Shemais, I'll just quote it out loud, that she gave birth and the house was filled, and it says that Vatara Isha, she gave birth and she had a ben, she had a son, and Vatera also, it says she saw him, Kitoivu, he was good, right? On page 296 in our school. So it's a funny thing. The mother, Yocheved, saw Moshe that he was good. So what does that mean? He was good. So so she hid him for 3 months, and then she couldn't hide him in the whole thing. But she hid him because she saw he was good. He was good. How old was he? He was a newborn. How could you say he's good? Right? It takes a few years till you see the kids, you have to be mechanech them, you have to train them in the right way, till you can finally say okay, now they're good. Chinuch is a 13-year process of training and regulating them the right way. It's not an overnight job. So Rashi says, Ki toivu, ki shenoilad, when he was born, nismale habayis kuloi oira. Rashi says that she saw the house was filled with light. She saw it was filled with the divine presence, and she realized this boy was a special boy. The divine presence was there. The or, there was special light there. So that goes beautifully here, that he said, Matoivu, how beautiful it is, and he saw the Shekhinah there, he saw the divine presence there, to equate the two cases. So that's the source that the Gemara brings, why you have to make sure that the doorway should not open up corresponding to the other doorway. So you have to, when you own an apartment building, you'll make sure that when you design it, make sure that the doors shouldn't open up one across the hall from each other. The truth is that nowadays we have a doorway. You have to know how it was in those days. It could be that maybe there was, exactly. But a window, at least you could see from one window into another, same idea. So that's the opening source. Now, from this comes out the whole idea of Hezekriya. Hezekriya, that you're not allowed to damage your friend by looking at him. So now comes out an interesting, in the beginning of BaMidbar, the Gemara also deals with Hezekriya. And the Gemara says, let's see the first page in BaMidbar on the right side. It says here, Hashutfim, if you have two partners on the top right-hand corner, Hashutfim Shiratu Lasis Mechitza, then if you have two partners who want to make a division, Bichatzer, inside a courtyard, Boinin as Hakaisel Bemsa. So the rule is, you want to split up, so you can split up. You take this half of the courtyard, I'll take this half of the courtyard, but the Mishnah says one thing, you have to make a wall in between. You have to make a wall. And the Gemara says there how you make the wall. You make the wall with a certain type of bricks, and each one has to give half of the bricks. And it's a beautiful Mishnah there to go into exactly how they split it up. Everything is amazing. Everything is precise. He gives 2.5 of the inches of bricks, and he gives 2.5. Everything's beautiful. Now, look at the fourth line from the end of this paragraph. As you see here, it's not only by a courtyard, but also by a gina. What's a gina? A gina. A gan. Comes the word garden. Garden. Excellent. A gina is a garden. If you have a gina, and you also want to split it up, so there also, same thing. Split it up, you got to make a wall. Why do you have to make a wall? Why is this a rule? If I want to split up, so let's split up. You take this half, I'll take this half. Why do you have to make such rules? And now we have to start building a wall in the middle, and you have to give half the bricks, and I have to give half the bricks, and it has to be on the border. Why is this rule?
Just for splitting up a garden?
Yes, or a courtyard. Yes. The question is why? What? Let's just split up. I'll make a magic marker. I'll take a marker. I'll make a boundary. Why do we have to make a wall? And you have to give the bricks, and I have to give the bricks.
And how high the wall has?
And how high the wall has to be 4 amas high, which is 4 amas, which would be let's say
6 feet.
6 feet around. So we have to make a 6-foot wall. Why do you have to make such a big wall? What we do, we want to just split up the land. So on this, the Gemara goes into a whole question of Hezekriya. And this idea of Hezekriya, the Gemara wants to know, is that a real damage? Hezekriya, the fact that I'm looking, is that enough to be called that I'm damaging you? Is that enough to be called a damage? So the Gemara here has a whole query back and forth. So let's see the Gemara here. Now, I'll just tell you one other idea here about Hezekriya.
You're saying on the garden you have to split it up by putting up a 6-foot.
Well, you have to split it up. You have to split it down the middle first. First, you got to take your marker, measure. He gets half. He gets half.
Okay, and then you build.
But you have to build a wall down the middle. You have to build a wall down the middle. And they have to each
Why?
give.
It's outside.
It's outside, right? Why is it that? Why do you have to build a wall?
Because once it's divided, you have a different dwelling place.
Take some for everyone. Yeah.
You can see what he's doing in his half of it, and him, you. Now, okay, he could do something embarrassment, which you could see. Also, he could do something inappropriate that you don't need to see, which could also damage you.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know.
So this is the question of Hezekiah. Hezekiah, that I have to put up a wall, or else he's going to see me and I'm going to see him. So I'm going to be damaging him and he's going to be damaging me. So you need a wall. As well as in a garden, you need a wall. Now I just want to suggest, what about, I'll tell you another reason why you need a wall. Maybe if I don't have a wall there, so then if you're going to be able to look at me, so I'm not going to want to take a suntan there. So I'm not going to take a suntan today. So you are, in effect, making me lose part of my rights. And I will hold back from using the property the way I want. So you're withholding me from using out my property rights. Is there such a term for such a thing? Right? It means it's called in Hebrew monea. Monea means to hold back. Hishtamshus, the use. I'm withholding you back from your use. It's like someone, let's say I take his parking spot. I'm holding him back from using out his property. So you're not allowed. This is another idea why you need a wall. Because if you don't have a wall, then I'm going to be embarrassed to do whatever I want there, and therefore I will have to either not do it or do it in a different place. So you're taking away my property rights. You're withholding from me my property rights, and therefore I can't do what I want. So this holding back property rights is similar to actually, what would you call that? This would be a form of damage. It's a form of damage. You're taking away my property rights. This is a new idea here.
That's good. Makes sense.
So there are two ideas here. Rabbi Ezra's idea and this idea, but they're both possibilities. Rabbi Ezra's idea was that if I could see him, then I'm going to embarrass him, and embarrassing him is damaging. It's damaging. That's hezek. That's damage with my body. The other idea is that if I could look at him, he's not going to want to take a suntan, right? He's not going to want to, do whatever. Let's say he would be embarrassed. He's going to have a family barbecue. Let's say he doesn't want everyone looking at it, him from his family barbecue. So he's going to have an indoor supper. He's going to be embarrassed to go outside. So he'll have an indoor. So you're making him lose his property rights. You're taking away part of his property rights. And that is called damage. That's damage. So two different ideas. Therefore, the Chazal said, make a wall. Build up a wall. Right? We already have a half a wall here. Build up a wall. And the wall has to be six amas. Why 6 amas? Now we understand why it has to be 6 amas. Because that way you cannot see your friend, what he's doing. 6 amas would be the height of an average man.
If, so, there was an above average height man living in one of the, it can happen.
Could happen. The way the Mishnah made up the rule of 4 amas. That's the rule. So that's a set. They made a set rule. I guess that would be for average people. So therefore they said, you need to build a wall. And this will prevent both problems. Whether the reason is because I'm going to look and embarrass you, because I will be watching you as you do whatever you need. You'll be hanging out the laundry.
Feel inhibited.
Excellent. And become embarrassed. So you need a wall, and the wall will make it. Then now I'm not going to look. I'm not going to be able to look. So therefore that wall holds back any damages. The other thing is that when you have a wall, you won't. What's the second thing that will happen when you have a wall? You won't.
So I just had a question.
Yeah. What was it? Just to say the second thing.
You won't cause busha.
Right. So the first thing is you won't have busha because you can't see, so you won't be able to be embarrass the guy because I can't see. And the second thing is that I won't hold him back from using out his property rights because since I won't be able to look, so he won't be embarrassed to go in. He won't go inside because he'll say there's a wall. He can't see me anyway. I could go and do whatever I want. So I'm not holding back the property rights. Therefore, the Chazal said, make sure there's a wall. Okay, what's your question?
No, I was just asking, wanted to ask you, why, in the explanation, it's talking very much on how you're inhibiting the person, right, by if you didn't have a wife. But really, are there not laws against you know, prying on other people, you know, other people's business. I guess you lashon hara is the kind of form of lashon hara, moricide, whatever. That there's actually an active on the person
to look. Right.
So in a way, you're also sort of stopping that person from doing an avera, you know, by
make a wall. That's true. The truth is, so you are saying a third shot. I wasn't going to bring it up, but now that you say it, the Stipler does say this. You heard of the Stipler Gaon. He is Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He is today one of the greatest leaders. His father was the Stipler. Stipler says, Mr. Callan's shot. A third reason why you need a wall is because you're not allowed to look into someone's property. So in essence, you need to make a wall for yourself that you shouldn't come to look. This will be your fence, you know, like it's a literal fence. Usually they mean a fence, you know.
It could save you from an embarrass, because if you should shame the other guy, there's something...
Right, because you're not allowed to look in his property. So by you making a wall, you're saving yourself. This is the Stipler, you're mechaven, word for word, what the Stipler says. Excellent. Baruch Shekivanda, that you need to make a wall in order that you should not look. It's your own safeguard. It's your own wall. It's your own fence. You know, we always say, like the rabbis made safeguards and fences. This is your fence that you shouldn't come to look at him. You put a wall up. You won't come to look at him. Excellent. So that is the third reason why they need a wall. Excellent. Excellent. Very good. So now, it's an interesting Gemara here. So the Gemara now goes into this whole idea. What would you say by a garden? What would you say by a garden? By a garden, would you say that there's an idea of hezekriya, of not to look into someone's house, into someone's garden? What do you think of a garden? I don't know if you have gardens here. They have nice gardens here, right? You have a garden in your...
That's where you live.
You know, you have a good garden here? You have a nice garden. Would you say there's hezekriya in a garden? That's my question. Is there such an idea of damaging with looking into someone's garden?
Without anyone else being there.
Because so far we set it up by a courtyard. If you have a courtyard, that's hezekriya. What about by a garden?
Maybe you might envy something he's growing, or his crops are blessed and yours not, or vice versa. Maybe...
Did you learn BaMidbar recently?
No.
You're excellent, excellent, excellent. But before we get to what you're saying, because you're saying one idea, that you'll be envious of his crops. And you have to explain, what will that do? You have to explain.
Yourself. I mean, damages your...
Oh,
you have...
You think because you're going to be jealous?
Yeah,
you're saying like Mr. Callan, that if you're able to see his beautiful tomatoes growing, you're going to be jealous, so you're setting yourself up.
Yeah, for a fall.
It could be the opposite too. That maybe his crops are not very good, and could be embarrassed. The neighbor could be embarrassed.
Yeah, but I don't know if you'll have a problem. He might be embarrassed, but I don't know if you're doing anything wrong there, because it's his fault. His fruits are that good. But here we have a question. The question is, does a person use his garden for any private uses? Maybe only in a courtyard. A courtyard, in the times of the olden days, the courtyard was like the bedroom, like the second bedroom, like the living room. They didn't have living rooms in the olden days. So where did they hang out the laundry? In the courtyard. The courtyard was their living room. So there they did all types of uses and all types of things that they wanted to do. That was where they cooked, and that's where they did the laundry. So maybe they wanted some privacy there. What about in the garden? So in the garden, the Gemara here says, like Rabbi Ezra says, actually, an interesting idea. Let's see it inside. Let's see the Gemara right on the right side, top right-hand corner, but after the little space. I left the space here. You see where the Gemara says Tashma? Right after that space? Got the place? So the Gemara here wants to know, and the Gemara is tackling this question, is Hezek Re'iyah or Hezek? If you watch and stare at someone, is that called damaging him or not? Or maybe it's not called damaging him, because on the other hand, maybe it's not maybe on the other hand, Rabbi Ezra actually said an interesting thought. That was, maybe you could say that he should get used to not doing anything private there. He won't be embarrassed.
Well, do you consider it a public space.
So it's between you and I. So what's the problem? The problem is he's going to get embarrassed by me watching him do something private. So maybe you could say, well, you should do the private things in your house.
The privacy of your home.
The privacy of your home. And I'm not embarrassing you because you should get used to it and try to just train yourself in to do things in the house.
Or if you're in a space that's open to the public, well, there's certain things you don't do in public.
So it's not the public, it's the it's shutfim. It's two partners who own a joint courtyard.
But no, you're talking about the garden, right?
So one thing, the garden's also going to be the garden's also going to be a private
But,
garden.
okay, let's take an example of, I know a guy who used his driveway for fixing cars, so he had junk all over the place. The neighbors didn't like that. It was his property, but they look out the window and it makes them uncomfortable because they don't, what you do in your court, even in your side, hurts other people just because they don't want to look at it. Like maybe your laundry, they don't want to look at it.
Yeah, but what happened? What happened in that case? I don't know if you could.
Well, there's bylaws anyway. There's bylaws. You're not allowed to do that anyway.
Yeah, do that.
But they do it.
Yeah, but other than those bylaws, I don't know if you did anything wrong. Yeah, the neighbor can't say, well, you're damaging me.
Well,
it might be an eyesore.
Yeah, but
it might be an eyesore, but I don't think without those bylaws, I don't think you call the police on him. That's a different type of. That's an eyesore, but I wouldn't call it a hezekriya. So over here, you would have to think through this, that the Gemara here is asking, well, is this damage a real damage or maybe it's not? On one hand, maybe you could think, well, you should train yourself to do whatever you want inside your house, in the privacy of your home. I'm not damaging you, you should go inside your house. That's the Gemara dealing with. So the Gemara wants to say, well, let's look at the case of the Mishnah. The Mishnah does say, v'chein begina, tashma v'chein begina. These words now says that even in a garden, you have to make sure you have a wall. Why do you have to have a wall?
Okay, a joint garden.
Yes.
Or a courtyard.
Right.
And okay, so we're talking about courtyard and garden.
Right.
And this is what you're.
Right.
Okay.
So the Gemara wants to know. It seems from the fact that you need to put up a wall in a garden. The Gemara is taking on that people do things that are private in the garden. You might want to take a suntan in the garden. So from the fact that the Gemara is quoting a Mishnah, and the Mishnah says you need to put up a wall in your garden, that says to me that the reason you need a wall is because or else he'll damage me by looking. Hezekriya. So I see that looking is called a damage.
And as you said, like, let's say that in those days they did their laundry and hung it out to dry outside. I mean, some people have nicer clothing than others. You can put yourself to overshame by what clothing your family has hanging on the line.
You're wearing your clothes out in the public. I mean,
No, well, not necessarily.
No, you're washing them and then you're putting them on. So I mean, if you're going to be, I don't.
I know. But okay, we have to.
I'm just saying, the private garments to undergarments, whatever, like I'm just saying that.
So the truth is, so I'll tell you how. So far, what the Stipler calls, he says three things that he's going to see, or the Rambam actually. The Rambam says that he doesn't want him to see, well, standing up, sitting down, or his private needs. So it could be what you're saying is true. But the Rambam gives three examples. Those three on the bottom.
One guy's poor and one guy has a nice barbecue and can cook steaks. That affects the other guy. I mean,
so if you look on the bottom, in the small print, and the third line in the small print. Vadai, he says over here, has a gadol vadai sheyira adam. It's a big damage that a person should see. Chaveri, his friend, ve'eshehu oimed v'yoshev. He's standing up, he's sitting down. Ve'oisatzrachav, he's doing his needs, whatever that might be. So here the Rambam is saying, whatever, you have to know exactly how far to take the Rambam, but for sure his doing is standing up, is sitting down, he's taking care of his needs, whatever that might be things that maybe he doesn't want people to watch him doing. So all of that is at least included in Hezekriya. So you'd have to know. It could be what you're saying is right. We have to think about it. But one thing is clear. So the Gemara wants to say that from the fact that you need to build a wall in your garden is a proof that there is such a thing as Hezekriya. Because if there wouldn't be such a thing as Hezekriya, then why do you have to build a wall? What's the problem? Let's just have a garden. We'll share a garden. Why do you need to have Why do you have to put a wall up? So from here, the Gemara wants to bring a proof that Hezek Riyah is called a Hezek, and you have to make sure to put up a wall, so you shouldn't look at your friend while he's doing his whatever his private things are. That's what the Gemara says. And on that, the Gemara says what Rabbi Ezra says. Look at the Gemara's answer. It's an interesting answer. And that the Gemara says, Shani, Gina Shani. Gina is different. Let's go back to the Gemara after that space on the right side, on the top. So the Gemara says, Gina is different. Kid the Rabbi Abba. Right? You see where we're holding here? Right there? After that space? Gina is different. You know why Gina is different? Because Rabbi Abba, Dam Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Huna, Marav, Asa La Adam. It's forbidden for a person to stand besod chaveroi in his friend's field b'shas shehi oimid b'koy mosel. At the time when the fruits are growing, you're not allowed to go into your friend's field and stand there and look at it. Why? Says Rashi on the left side, because if you're going to go into your friend's field and you're going to see he has beautiful tomatoes growing, and you're going to think back to your own tomatoes, which weren't so nice, and you're going to have an ayin hara, you're going to have like a stingy eye and look at him with stinginess. That will affect his tomatoes. Yes. Here is one of the sources for ayin hara. Ayin hara is that the Gemara here is saying that's why another reason why you have to build a wall. You know why you have to build a wall between you and him? Or both of you together. If you have a garden, you both need a wall in between you. Why? Because you're going to walk into or you're going to look onto his side of the yard, and you're going to see his luscious tomatoes and apples, and you're going to say, wow, I wish I had those tomatoes. And you're going to put an evil eye saying, I wish he didn't have those tomatoes. And you see here that ayin hara could affect his tomatoes, right? There's such a thing that people are scared of an ayin hara. Here you see, his tomatoes will be affected. And therefore the Rabbanan said, you have to make a wall in your garden also. For a new reason, not because of Hezek Riyah. He's not in his garden for private uses, hanging out the laundry. That's not a problem. He doesn't do any private uses in his garden. But we have a new problem here. You're going to look in his garden and spy and see his tomatoes and put an evil eye, an evil thing, saying, oh, I wish he didn't have those tomatoes. And therefore that will affect his tomatoes. Therefore the Rabbanan said you have to make a wall, another wall there, and that wall will affect that you won't have that problem. And therefore that's the idea here. They're coming out a few different ideas in Hezek Riyah. So the first idea is 3 pshatim here. We have 3 different ideas of why you shouldn't look into your friend's field, why you're not allowed. Either, like Rabbi Ezra said, because you'll be embarrassing him, because he's going to get embarrassed that here you're looking at him while he's taking a suntan or at the barbecue, a family barbecue, so you won't, you'll be embarrassed. That's Hezek, that's damage, one of the 5 damages. The second shot is because you'll be moinea, you'll hold him back from using out his property. You will actually, it's like taking his parking spot. He won't want to go out because he'll be embarrassed to go outside. And now we have the third shot of Mr. Callan, that you need to put up a fence, because if not, you're going to set yourself up to look at him. And it's usher. You're not allowed to look in your friend's house. So therefore you have to make sure you have a wall. So you shouldn't set yourself up to look, and that will be usher. It's usher to peek into your friend's house. So you have to make sure you make a wall, so you shouldn't set yourself up to do that, Aveira. And now we have another idea, that even in a garden where no one takes suntans, let's say, they grow their vegetables, no one will be embarrassed and hold back from uses or look at his friend and make his friend embarrassed. But there's a new problem, says the Gemara, ayin hara, and if you have to make a fence to make sure that you don't cast an evil eye on his food, because you're not allowed to do that, so you have to make sure you don't do that. That is the idea that we learn out from Bilam. Bilam said he looked and saw their modesty, how they were not trying to look into their friends' tents. It wasn't opposite. The openings weren't opposite each other. So he said, Ma toivu alecha Yaakov. For this is ra'oi, the Gemara says. It's befitting that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, should come down on them, because of this beautiful attribute that their tents don't open one to another. They're so careful, not even inadvertently, to look into their friend's tent, even while they open their door and go out, not even to catch a glance inadvertently. Therefore, it's fitting that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, should come on them. And on this, it says that the divine presence was coming down right then at that moment because of that beautiful idea that Bilam he saw by the Jews.